The Justice and Constitutional Development Department is currently giving a media briefing outlining their priorities and clarifying what they describe as matters of public interest. The Minister there, Thembi Nkadimeng, is speaking. Let's listen.
Assist that the unit could be able to extract and analyze data from encrypted devices such as cell phones and laptops to come up with the evidence needed to prosecute criminal cases of corruption successfully, specifically cases which are related to state capture. The data source of the Commission came in two primary sources. There's an office where this stored digital records, which emanates from the Commission's hearing, which some of and most of us must have seen on television, the investigation, the legal work, including the data of the Commission's website. Then there is a registry office which receives and collects documentary data submitted to the Secretariat office. So the sharing and the access, the Commission started supplying data and information to law enforcement agencies long before its a conclusion. The record indicates that the first request started around 2020, while the Commission was still concluding or still a hearing going on. To facilitate this, the Commission amended Regulation 11 to grant special access to its data. The Commission also trained over 30 NPA investigators to access its digital forensic platforms. So the custodianship of this is the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, including the data which is on behalf of the state. So we're not holding it for ourselves, but we're holding it on behalf of the state, on behalf of government, and you, the people of South Africa. So all law enforcement agencies have priority access to the data, but do not have exclusive ownership or access to the data. The law enforcement agencies currently, since 2020, which have requested, and the requests were responded positively, it's the DPCI, that is Priority Crimes Investigation, commonly known as the Hawks, the NPA through the ID, Asset Forfeiture Unit, both SARS, that is the South African Revenue Services, Special Investigative Unit, and some of the state-owned enterprises as they pursue their own internal disciplinary processes, utilizing some of the information that might have been heard during the Commission. The Secretariat, which is now, the Secretariat of the Commission, which is now integrated into the department, is mainly dealing with two key projects, that is the library, which we are dealing with with the assistance of the Human Science Research Council, and the major digital forensic library, which we are in the process of ensuring that we ingest all the unstructured digital data, which I referred to earlier on, approximately 1 petabyte, using high-performance computing capabilities and the data science expertise, which we are assisted by CSIR. So both projects, along with the Commission asset, have been transferred to the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development in line with the MOU which was signed, that is a Memorandum of Agreement rather, and the PFMA requirements which National Treasury headed in assisting us to deal with. The department is also involved in the rollout of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which adopts the whole government and the whole of society approach. This strategy includes the establishment of anti-corruption forums in the health sector, local government, infrastructure and build, and they are all led by the SIU, which have significantly bolstered public confidence in the fight against crime and corruption. And you might have seen really the input or the output rather of the work that the SIU has been doing in dealing with corruption, whether you talk COVID-19 related PPE or whether you talk state capture, and we will articulate with time on quite a number of aspects that they've been able to deal with. State attorney offices are currently implementing a robust turnaround strategy within the office of the state attorney. This strategy is designed to address allegations of fraud, malfeasance and corruption as identified by the proclamation that was signed by the President permitting our Special Investigating Unit under Proclamation 23 of 2020. So there have been outcomes that SIU brought out of this proclamation, and we remain committed to ensuring that all the implicated individuals, regardless of their current employment status, are held accountable. This includes following through the SIU recommendations and initiating disciplinary proceedings where necessary. The integrity of the State Attorney's Office is very paramount, and we will continue to enforce the anti-corruption strategy to protect state resources and maintain the public trust. There have been issues topical as well with regard to the Master's Office, which is a critical administration part of the estate and other legal processes of ensuring that they are undergoing significant reforms. They are part of our broader effort to combat corruption and improve service delivery within the justice system. The turnaround for the Master Office includes implementing again the SIU recommendations. In fact, I can confirm that I've signed 2 dismissals emanating from that investigation. In total, there were 13. 3 yes will be pursuing civil claims because they resigned in the process of the conclusion of the investigation. The 2 seniors who are there, I think out of the 13, we should be hovering around 8 in terms of ensuring that the disciplinary processes have been are being undertaken. Of course, the SIU, as I had said, took a deep dive, and we felt in the report as well, which the SIU indicated that there could have been more that could have been identified. The time frame was relatively minimal, but secondly, the work of the Master's Office is very vast. But we do believe that action in the 13 that were found and recommendations were made that they be taken through disciplinary cases would prevent future misconduct, but will also assist us. The DG may talk possibly, if we have enough time, on how now we're running the system online. You can be able to register, you can be able to book, you could be able in a 24-hour to receive your letter of authority. Of course, we still have challenges on the strength of our network for all our Master's Office. Why are we emphasizing and pushing on this? So that we minimize the queues that you know and you see in Master's Office. Because remember, those are vulnerable people. You have lost a loved one. The state at all costs must try to protect you, protect your rights, but be empathic to you and the conditions in which you are going through. Of course, that includes restoring the Guardian Fund and dealing with the issues to ensure that we assist our children. There have been issues with regard to the special tribunal, which is also really works hand in hand in dealing with the SIU cases, which brings the perpetrators to justice. The tribunal was established in 2019, and it continues to play a crucial role in recovering state funds lost to corruption. To date, the Special Investigative Unit, SIU, of course, with the tribunal, have successfully recovered an estimated of about 15 billion rand, demonstrating the effectiveness and the specialized judicial board. When we met with the team of the SIU, the letter is already in the office of the President requesting the appointment of the judge to head the special tribunal. Proclamations have also been accelerated to ensure that the SIU continue. As soon as the President announces the names of the judge for the special tribunal, will ensure that the SIU receive all the judicial support necessary to pursue further cases of corruption and malfeasance. I will do an update also briefly on extradition. You know, I'm not in the best of health. I do need a drop of water. It's there's a. I've been trying. I'm on my last page, but I can feel that it's getting more difficult. The department is actively engaged in addressing the mutual legal assistance in criminal matters and extradition requests involving South Africa. We are committed to fulfilling our treaty and extradition obligations to ensure that justice is served in all relevant cases. Recent developments, of course, including ongoing efforts to extradite Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife from Malawi, as well as the Gupta brothers from the UAE. These cases have faced several challenges, but we remain steadfast in our pursuit for accountability. Our teams are working diligently through diplomatic and legal channels to bring these matters to a resolution. On the AK matter, we are today awaiting the judgment of the main extradition application case that involves Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande in Eswatini. I think there are cases sitting sometime this week, and we hope to hear from the authorities of Eswatini of the outcome. Much as we don't, it's usually out of interest that topical cases are inquired upon, but the department deals with quite a number of extradition and requests for mutual assistance. In fact, in the month that I have been in the department, I have handled no less than 40 mutual requests from any other country. Could it be Singapore, Netherlands, Namibia, Botswana, and all that. But we understand that justice needs to be seen to be done, and most our community members remembers topical issues and topical names that they mirror the outcome of those cases as a reflection of whether does justice happen in the country. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we are convinced that through our collective effort and our unwavering commitment, we can deliver fair and quality justice to all South Africans. And we urge each and every one of us, our stakeholders, our partners, and everybody else, including our communities, to join hands to build and maintain one of the most efficient and judicial legal system in the world for the benefit of our nation and its people. And I think as we continue with our quarterly updates moving on, we will then show the collaboration, for example, we have now with SABC in trying to integrate both the police and justice to ensure that cases are seamless. There is arrest this side, and there is sometimes accusation of easy release in our magistrates. Are these issues factual? You might be aware that Minister Mkhunu, for example, went to Mthatha yesterday, and at the end of the day yesterday, myself and him convened and with our team and his team to look into the cases that have been reported in Mthatha and the legal process that has been followed through our judiciary and the update, so that we can then go back to the community and bring and rebuild confidence that what is happening on those cases. And that suffices to say we are trying to create one system that ensures that we leave no one behind in the fight against crime and ensuring that we bring justice to all South Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Colleagues, I'm going to open for the questions. We'll take questions from the floor and also questions from the colleagues on the call. Yes, the question and answer session is now officially open. online. Okay. There is a question from the Eyewitness News. Has the minister received a request from the Wynberg Magistrate Court in Cape Town to consider the extradition of Lane Wes, who is wanted for sex crimes in Scotland? From Thembi Nkadimeng, SABC TV News, have all the financial reparations been paid out of the 36 affected families of the Marikana tragedy to date? And will you agree to series demand to pay general and constitutional damages to the 320 individual family members who were also affected? I hope the Solicitor General has noted. Rorisang Khosana from Times Live. What are the main plans to improve court infrastructure? For example, there is a delay in the construction of the Soshanguve Court. The Johannesburg High Court has a backlog of commercial cases as there are not enough judges. And the Supreme Court of Appeal has a low number of researchers, resulting in judges having to do their own research. I suspect I've read all the questions which emanates from the online platform. Colleagues, do we perhaps on the floor have any further questions? Okay. Takran?
Thank you very much. There are other questions that are coming from other online platforms. There's a question from Kay Cohen from Mr. Before. The question is, why is there a delay in the department serving all the suspended master's office officials with charge sheets? And some have been sitting at home for months without being charged. And secondly, the SIU's final report has been leaked and is being used by aggrieved businessmen to challenge legal actions against themselves. And is the SIU investigating the leak of its report into the master's office? And there's a question from Susan Comrie from Amabunga, and the question is, do NPA investigators have unrestricted access to the Commission's data, or can the Commission's data only be accessed via a subpoena? And questions from Christian Duplessis from Network 24. One, will the Minister please respond to the conflicting remarks by the Department and the NPA regarding access to the digital database of the Zondo Commission, with the NPA saying that they are struggling with access and mentioning technical issues, but the Ministry denying these issues? And will the Minister also make a commitment that she will resolve the issue? And the Minister says that the President has signed the proclamation to bring the NPA Amendment Act into operation, and where will this be gazetted? Thank you.
Okay. Minister, DM, DG, those were the questions. Solicitor General.
No, thank you very much. I think the only question that I'm able to respond to is from Thembi Nkadimeng, and that in fact pertains to the Marikana litigation. I think there is an indication of 36 families. Our records thus far only indicate that we've got 34 families There could be that, as we have indicated previously, perhaps one of the deceased minors might have been married to more than one spouse, and in that way, you could be able to get the number 36. We have, outside of the top tier recommendations of the Commission, what is required of us is to deal with only one aspect, reparation in relation to litigation. And the other aspects reside elsewhere. They would not have anything to do with the Department of Justice. So reparation is very expansive in that sense, because the top tier recommendations had about 10. So I'm only able to talk about the one which in fact refers to or relate to litigation. And as the Minister has indicated, we have disbursed 352 million rand for both the deceased family members, the 34, as well as those that were injured and those that were detained and arrested. And we have considered, in the spirit of having to resolve these matters, we have considered the merits. The only issue that had remained was the quantum, which, according to the current records, we have met. The only residual issue that is there is a test case, if I may put it that way. And this is now the second part of the question, which is, does government agree to compensate the 320 individuals that form part of the general constitutional or general and constitutional damages claim? As the Minister has already indicated, this is a test. There is nothing in our law of delict as we speak right now that speaks to the issue of constitutional damages, at least in the realm that is in fact outlined in the matter before court. But if the question were posed differently, were the courts to make that determination, will government be amenable to honor the decisions of the court? Yes, by all means. The courts are an extension of the Department of Justice and will be guided accordingly. And we await the courts to make that pronouncement, because there is no agreement. And even accepting that there is an agreement, the Minister of Justice is only responsible for the policy and legislation that deals with litigation. The baseline budget holder will be the South African Police Services. There is no way that we can make commitments on behalf of another government department. And state attorneys that are dealing with these matters are doing so because they are creatures of instructions. And there is none of those matters from the 320 that requires perhaps the minister or at least the principals within justice to make a decision to settle or not to settle. If settlement is to be reached based on a court decision, the baseline budget that is going to be implicated will be that of another government department, and normal processes will have to be followed. But as at the current moment, their instructions are, there is no recognition of constitutional damages, and to the extent that that is so, they'll be guided by the outcome of the court. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, Seki. So I'll take a few questions. Start with the construction of courts. And the Mamelodi court was, not Mamelodi, Soshanguve specifically was mentioned. From the information that we have, the Soshanguve court should have been completed sometimes this year, but you remember that the project started before COVID, and there was that, interruption for about 1.5 years. And the latest information is that if all goes according to plan, the construction will be concluded sometimes next year by June. Now, shortage of judges that you have referred to in Johannesburg. you will know that there's a rationalization committee that is led by the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, that is looking at all the superior courts establishments with a view to make recommendations. And I think they've had their last meeting last week, and they will finalize the report to the minister. That will give us a sense in terms of the volume of court matters, what is required in order to address the challenges. Minister mentioned recently in one briefing that both her and the Deputy Minister met with the Judge President and the Deputy Judge President of Gauteng, Division of the High Court. And part of what creates problems in terms of the role is the Road Accident Fund, particularly here in Gauteng. And there are measures that are going to be put in place, and we think that some of those challenges relating to RAF, if they are addressed, it will free a lot of judges to do other normal roles. The issue of researchers, yes, indeed, there is a shortage of researchers. In an ideal world, you will want every judge to have a researcher. But currently, where we have researchers, of course, they end up assisting 3 to 5 judges. The reality is the budget. So the impact of budget cuts on everyone, and we know it's not only us, it's not OCJ and Justice and Constitutional Development that are affected by budget cuts, it's everyone. But the impact is that we may have the desire, even regional court magistrates and presidents, in fact, they do need researchers. But the challenge is resources that we all know. Budget is a challenge for the entire government. Now, the disciplinary processes for the officials who were suspended from masters, the disciplinary process is unfolding, and we think we are within the time frame. So there's no one who has been sitting home for more than 2 months since they were suspended, and charges have been finalized. And we are clear that that process must run smoothly. You will know there have been challenges, including people from outside intimidating us not to, discipline the officials of the department. And we have stood our ground and said we will discipline them. And indeed, we are continuing. And very soon, we hope some of those cases, as the minister has indicated, those that are remaining will be finalized. Now, there's an issue of the access to. Okay, before that, we heard about the report that were given by the SIU having been leaked. We don't know where it is, and we're still trying to get information so that we can bring it to the attention of law enforcement. Those that were told might have the report, we'd agree that we'll write to them and say they must cease circulating such a report because it's a property of the state. Beyond that, some of the things we may not have the control. Access to the data center and conflicting information. From where we stand, as you will know, this is what happened. The Commission into State Capture, which was led by the Deputy Chief Justice, as he then was, concluded its work and compiled a report. And the report was submitted to the President with recommendations. But as you know, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is the custodian of the Commissions Act. But also that every asset that was being utilized by the Commission is an asset of the department. And we have the responsibility in terms of the PFMA to manage the assets. But then as well, there's a lot of information that was collected beyond what was bundled into that thick report. And that became the information of the state. And we have to manage that information in accordance with the laws that govern the security of state information. Now, during the time of the commission, and the idea was set up, there was a challenge in terms of getting evidence from the commission. And you'll remember there was what we used to call Regulation 11 that governed the access or the cooperation between the commission and IT that provided the information. During that process, a subpoena process had to be used. But once the Deputy Chief Justice, as was the chair of the commission, concluded his work, the commission ceased the existing, and the department took all the assets. There's no longer a need for a subpoena. However, we created what we call a residual mechanism. So the former secretary of the commission, Prof. Itumeleng Musala, is the head of the post-Zondo residual mechanism and is an official of the department. There are protocols that have been developed for how all the law enforcement agencies can access any information they require. And more than 20 officials from the NPA and Investigative Directorate have been trained on how to access the information. So this is where we stand. In terms of any information that any law enforcement agencies require, they follow a particular protocol just to make sure that we comply with the laws, taking into account that that's the information of the state. So I don't think there's any conflicting information. That's the information that we have provided, and we don't require any subpoena for the Investigative Directorate or for the Hawks, for FIC, for SARS to access the information. They have to indicate the information that they require, and they get assisted and they be provided with the information. I think I've dealt with the issues, Minister, that I've picked up, and maybe DM them.
All right, so those are live visuals coming out of Pretoria. That's where the Justice and Constitutional Development Department is holding a media briefing on a number of issues. And oh my goodness, it seems that Shamila Batoyi, the head of the NPA, is now taking to the podium. I'm going to ask for special permission if we can go back, actually. That's an important voice to listen to, given just how much is hinging on the work that she needs to do in a context where the department is laying out some of their priorities. Let's continue listening in.
But the reality is that currently the ID does not have the access that it needs in order to properly investigate these cases. And I'm very pleased that the minister is now seized with this and is looking urgently into finding a suitable resolution, because, you know, we do need to move very quickly with these cases, and the protocols of request is not ideal for optimal investigations. So I'm very pleased that, in fact, the minister is only in office for a very short time, but I do want to emphasize that the minister has been very supportive in pushing through, for example, prioritizing the proclamations to make sure that the ID can, you know, begin its work and begin to have the investigators can have the criminal investigative powers that they need. And so that process, I know the minister's worked really hard on trying to fast track that. I know she's giving the issue of access to the data and the Zondo data center urgent attention. And I'm sure that together with the DG and ourselves, we must reach a solution very, very soon on this. Thank you.
All right, we just thought it was worth capturing the sentiments of the head of the NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority, Shamila Batoyi there, who was part of the department's update as they outlined their priorities in the coming months, possibly years, given the work that they need to do. But a whole host of issues that they touched on there, by the way, including compensation for those who were affected by the Marikana massacre as we mark 12 years since that tragedy. 352 million rand already been paid out, with questions around whether or not the department should be coughing out even more money.